Hello, and welcome to this Christian Walk podcast, the show where no topic is too taboo to empower you on your walk with God. I'm your host, Marley B, and it's my privilege to welcome you back to the conversation. And today, TCW fam, we are going to revisit a topic that we've discussed before when we talk about the inability that the church has to connect with younger generations, specifically millennials. Well, my guests today have made the decision to not only talk about the issue, but get on a mission to resolve it. So get ready, TCW fam, because we are about to get unplugged. So let's get into it right now.
Uh, we ain't talked in a minute, yo, please come kick it with me. I got some questions, need answers, so please be vivid with me. This walk is scary, I know that results may vary, but somebody gotta do it. Sit down, let's get into it.
Quentin and Cleara, welcome to this Christian Walk podcast.
Hey.
Hey, what's
I
going
am
on, bro?
so excited because we're about to get unplugged. And
Yeah.
I am so stoked about this conversation. But before we jump into it and learn more about you guys and your ministry, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourselves to the TCW fam. We'll start with you, Quentin.
Well, of course, my name is Quentin. Hello, everyone. I am very, very excited to be here. It's kind of been a while since I've been on like a podcast, so I'm really blessed and honored to be here. But of course, my name is Quentin. I am originally from Connecticut. I've been down in the Carolina for roughly about 13 years. Ministry is it's just it's an overflow with me with ministry. My grandfather is a Baptist preacher of New Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church, still in Connecticut. And I actually have been a part of ministry for a long, long, long time. I've kind of served in different capacities. I've served on the parking ministry. I've served on sound, media, security, children's church, and then also creative arts as well. I was actually a minister of mime for about 17, 18 years, kind of retired. I mean, they kind of pushing me out of early retirement. They're trying to, but we're gonna keep praying on that. But other than that, been really just kind of just plugged in with ministry. I actually been on and off about 10 years with New Beginnings. So I've had a close relationship with Pastor Henderson and Reverend Henderson as well. But even just a New Beginnings family kind of just coming back in the groove with everything, it was just natural. So it was just an amazing, amazing opportunity to just be a part of Unplugged, which I was really excited about meeting, honestly, just developing new friendships that I thought I would never have before. And it was just plugging in with that. But that's a little bit of my background.
Wonderful. Well, that's a strong background. They'll let me know. Okay, I get it. It's pieces to the puzzle for
Yep.
me. So I'm loving it. I thank you for that. And Cleara.
Hey, hey, hey. So thank you so much for having me. This is my first podcast ever, I think. Yeah. I'm
Yes.
always running my mouth, but it's not in a podcast type of setting situation. So thank you for having me and inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Mhm.
Like Marley said, my name is Cleara. I am, what am I? I'm a mom. First and foremost, every day, all day.
Mhm.
I moved to Charlotte about 2 years ago from Ohio, from Cincinnati, and that's where I grew up in my adolescent years. But I was born in Canton, Ohio. Then we moved to
Mhm.
Texas for a year, and then we moved back to Cincinnati, and then I went to Ohio State and Columbus. So I'm an all around Ohio type of girl, you know. And moved here to Charlotte. My mom lives about an hour away, in Kernersville. Wanted to be closer to her because I wanted her and my daughter to maintain their close relationship. And in doing so, I was with a friend who was right around. She was Ubering. No, she wasn't Ubering. She was door dashing, and we was like, "There go a church right there." And then I googled it, and I was like, "Oh, it's a black church." I said, "Okay, well, we gonna go." So went, and obviously, the spirit of the Lord was there, the word was there, and I joined, and I've been there at New Beginnings since for about maybe it was a year in May. So yeah, and
Oh,
I am now the ministry leader of Unplugged Young Adult Ministry. So that's fun. I have
Yeah.
a church background too. Um, and yeah, so I'm here. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm loving all the things that Unplugged is doing. I'm loving being at New Beginnings, serving. I've never done ministry to this capacity as far as being a leader, but
Mhm.
it is growing and stretching me in a lot of different ways, and I'm appreciative for this season. So yeah.
Wow. That is, you know what? I love that. The fact that you have come to church and then have stepped into leadership, that just showing me divine order at its finest. So I'm really like, that gave me kind of goosebumps in that moment, right? And so thank you for sharing that. Also, I appreciate the fact that you are a fellow Midwest girl. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and yeah, yeah. We're not too far from Connecticut, though. We're not too
No,
far from
yeah.
Connecticut.
Woo,
So
woo, woo.
all of us, all of us is used to the big coats come late October. So we all in
Right.
the same boat for that time, for that as far
Exactly.
as that goes. So I think we're all in good company, and this letting me know that this right here was ordained. So I'm excited. Like and then one thing that you guys did not mention, I just wanted to ask you right quick, how old are you?
I'm
Oh,
old.
I'm 29. I know I don't look
29.
it, but I'm 29.
29.
I'm
What's oh
35.
that's not
I'm
old, man.
35. I'm 35.
30, oh,
35.
35.
35.
Yes, I like it. That's not old. Thank you very much. But I appreciate it. It's mature, right? And this is something that we're talking about today. We're talking about unplug. I know people are like, okay, what's unplug? First of all, that's going to be the title of this episode. And it's going to be like, okay, what's that? And we're saying it as if everybody know what it is, but it's something that everybody should know what it is because it's targeting you guys' generation, right? And that's not something that we're used to in the church. We're used to the regular church and the children's church.
Yep.
I want to know how it became a focus, from you guys' perspective for the 40 and under young adults to get a service that is geared for them. So can you talk about, how that came to fruition? But before you go into that, I want to give Quentin a opportunity just to give us a quick overview of what Unplugged is.
So, a quick overview of what Unplugged is. We are basically the new generation of worship, stepping out of that traditional sense of just traditional methods of service, the way,
Mhm,
the flow. We're just different. We're kind of just unplugging from those traditional ways. Where we
mhm,
step in, of course, not only the worship part, but also the serving part, uplifting the kingdom, bringing younger lives to Christ. Because, of course, our generation has strayed completely away from it. You have
mhm,
now people that don't even know who God is, or they have like, yeah, I go to church, but okay, you go to church, but you don't have an established relationship with God. So we're
mhm,
equipping all of them about that. And then not only, like I said, with the new generation of worship, it's kind of like we're setting the tone for the new season that are coming in. So we're kind of just setting that tone. But that's basically what Unplugged is.
mhm. So, Cleara, how did the focus get there to where it's like we got to do something about this? You basically laid out the problem, right? Because things like this start with, okay, there's a problem. We identify it. What we gonna do about it? So, what was it like to get to the point where it's like, okay, we got to bring this to fruition? Could you speak on that, Cleara?
Sure. So I think that our pastor at our church definitely continued to just voice that he had the vision to make sure that we do something for the young adults and that we embrace them, that we prepare them for, running the church and being the next spiritual leaders, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
at our church, like it was like every other Sunday, it felt like it was like, if you're 40 and under, stand up and God is going to do something. So it started with spiritual conversations. And so
Mm-hmm.
we began having it was like an interest, like if you want to be a part of this ministry, meet. And so we met, and there was a few of us that met pretty consistently, and then people would not meet, and then we just moved forward with having the spiritual conversations. And so it was a very small amount of us that were consistently putting on the spiritual conversations, and great things were coming from that. And the same amount of people, the same people were showing up for those spiritual conversations, but weren't necessarily on the Unplugged team to get it going. And then one day, pastor, and this is where it's so awesome to go to a church where you have a pastor that is a visionary, put out a blast for everybody who was interested. He wanted to talk to us. It was very, very ambiguous. And we was like, oh, what's that? So that got the people in, right? He knew how to get us. And so we came to it. The meeting was right after a spiritual conversation, which was perfect. And he said, I want to do a contemporary service. And we said, okay. Well, what does that mean? So he was
Right.
like, we wanted to be contemporary worship music, just everything, just different, contemporary, woo, 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 woo. So we're like, okay. So we're thinking that it's gonna be like a once a month thing. It was like, no, this is gonna be every Sunday at 12:30. It's gonna be a third service, and you guys are gonna do it. It's gonna be ran, led, everything by you guys. And we was like, oh. And so we met, we brainstormed on what we wanted to look like. We had a lot of meetings, like we met frequently, like I feel like all the time. We were meeting like sometimes twice a week, um, up until that point, and it just came to be. And so it was a lot to get there, but we got there.
I'm sure.
And those same kind of core people who started from that day are still serving, very committed to the ministry now. And we couldn't do it without each other. So yeah, that's how it all came to be.
That is wow. And the fact that it's just like, okay, because we always hearing Pastor talking about it is on Sundays, right? Like,
Right.
God is tugging at my heart and my spirit when it comes to young adults. Because like you guys said, they're going like there is what 59% of churches in the United States right now are plateauing or declining.
Mhm.
Um that's not that it's not all because of young people now, because people from every generation, which right now is 7 generations, that are all living together, worshiping together or not, but we're all on this planet living together, and worship is a big part of that. And for whatever reason, all generations are like, the crazier the world gets, the further and further a lot of people are getting away from church, from faith, from relationship with God. And it's a lot of people that think, they don't need the church to have a
Yeah.
relationship with God. And I know there's a lot of perspectives when it comes to that theory, right?
Yep.
But you guys grew up in church, right? And I'm interested to know from you guys' perspective right now, end of your 20s and mid 30s, what do you guys think about the person that says, I can do this without being a part of a church, without a spiritual covering? It's just me and God. What do you guys think about that? I'll start with you, Quentin.
Well, they ain't gonna get very far. I'm gonna tell you that they're not gonna get very far. The reason I say that is because not only, um, of course, in the word it does say about being connected and a spiritual covering. But a lot of people, they feel like, especially, I'm gonna say this, since the pandemic, people have really kind of changed their perspective on how they see the church. They're like, oh, I got church online. Then that falls into, I don't need to be a part of a ministry. I don't need to, serve. I don't need to do these type of things. I don't need to have a spiritual covering. Yeah, my pastor, he's online. Okay. Have you reached out to your pastor? Have you talked with your pastor? Have you
Right.
physically your pastor? Not only that, with giving, are you giving? Like, are you, of course, paying your tithes and offerings? Because honestly, people don't understand that is a form of worship. Giving is a form of
Yes.
worship, and it's very serious.
Yes.
But people stray away from it. And I, of course, only just being 29, I've experienced being in a Baptist church and a non-denominational church.
Mhm.
Of course, my first probably 4 years of my life, I grew up in a Baptist church. And then when I was about 5, my family and we joined a ministry that was non-denominational. So I've learned, it got deeper into just religious standpoint. It was actually a relationship. And then it broke it down on why this relationship is important. But
Mhm.
I feel like, and I tell anybody this now, the pandemic really just kind of took that out. to where
Mm-hmm.
that's why a lot of churches are declining, because you got people that are just like, oh, well, I can just tune in online. And yeah, it's okay to tune in online every once in a while, but you need to be filled and connected, because not only do you grow with your relationship with God, but you grow with people. You grow with God opening doors for you there. Like, honestly,
Yes.
part of Unplugged, a lot of doors started to open, to where even friendships that, like I said, I didn't think I would have, I have those now. I have individuals that reach out to me and they're like, Quentin, I kind of seen you down. I just want to check on you. Do we need to pray? Do we need to read? Do we need to do something? So it's very, very important to be connected, not only with that, with friends, but also a spiritual covering, because
Mm-hmm.
don't know it all. Yeah, of course, our pastor does not know it all, but he's been mature enough, and God has really downloaded a lot of things in his spirit to share with his sheep. So, of course, being
Mm-hmm.
under him is very, very important. And it ain't got to be New Beginnings. It can be any, as long as it's a good Bible-based church. I
Mm-hmm.
see it like be connected to that. You don't have to be connected to the things that we are, but
Absolutely. And I feel like it's important for people to stop picking their church. They should let
Mhm.
God pick it for them, because I feel like that's why I ended up in New Beginnings. Because for real, I was one of those it was like one and done for me. I had moved here and I church hopped for years. And then I joined New Beginnings the first day. Like I knew it. And Pastor wasn't even there. This was like a fun fact for me. Pastor wasn't even there. First lady had preached. But before I knew it, I was up at that altar, a bag of tears and everything else. And then when it was like riding home, I'm like, just joined the church and the pastor wasn't even there. Then I went back and he was there, and I was like, okay, this is it. And then I was there for years before my development really started to take hold, right? Because I grew up going to church. Like that's something you just knew you did. Like, going to church was a staple. I knew that I had to do that, but it wasn't until I was probably a little bit older than you, Clear, before I realized the importance of what you said before, Quentin, which is relationship. Relationship is a game changer. And to me, the more you get in relationship with God and you get deeper in his word and deeper in
Oh, yeah.
relationship with him, all roads come back to the church. If you think you in a tight relationship with God and it's telling you to go away from church, you need to be clear about what God is talking to you. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Because
Exactly.
that's what I wonder. A lot of people who feel like, okay, I'm so tight with God that I don't need the church. You talking about God's church? So he telling you don't got to go to church. It just don't sound right. So what you think about that, Clear, about the people that think, I'm more the people, I'm more spiritual than
that,
religious. And
that
they
part.
think,
It's funny
they
because
use that.
I know people that are like that and have people that are very
Mhm.
close to me that are like that and challenge me with
Mhm.
that. And my initial thoughts is that that's so foolish. How could you
Mhm.
think that you know everything and that you could do everything all on your own? So
That
that's
part.
like, so then it immediately tells me where they are spiritually, right? Because you don't understand. You can't miss something that you never had, right? As well,
Mhm.
because we have a lot of people who just never experienced that. I can remember
Mhm.
being younger going to church, and when I would leave, I would just feel so like refreshed and like free and happy and stuff. And I didn't understand that as a kid, right? Because I was a kid.
Yeah.
But to your point, as you do grow in your relationship, you start to understand that and you understand the benefits of being in church. So I think
Mhm.
one, it's a matter of people go through their church hurt things. You have that piece of it. And so
Mhm.
you got to get over it. I had it. I went to a church where when my dad did get saved, the pastor ended up, uh in an adulterous situation, the church went under all that different type of stuff. And so as a kid, we talking straight into like college to find that out. I'm like, everything
Mhm.
I've known is a lie.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at these people that are supposed to be that were my spiritual leaders, and I'm
Mhm.
just denoting everything that they taught me and everything, because it's like this was all fake, this was all a lie, right? But I had to deal with that myself.
Yeah.
And I had to be flat on my face and that's where my relationship started. It wasn't just like, oh, you're getting drugged to church every day by your grandma, by your dad, and your mom and stuff like that. It's like, okay, Lord, I need you. So it wasn't all
Mhm.
bad, those things. When you have that church hurt, sometimes that church hurt overpowers all the good things that have happened. But then you start to lean on those good things and them scriptures and those words that you heard, and you're like, okay, Lord, I need you. Like, all right, I know it's been a while, And that's when my relationship began to happen. So I think people have to have their moments, and I think people who are believers in that age group, we have to like live our lives that influence that extends that invite to come to church. When I first moved to Charlotte, I was meeting random people and I was like, "Oh, where do you go to church?" And he was like, "I don't go to church." I was like, "What?" Like, so you live here and no one goes to church. So it's like you have to extend those invites to people. People got to know, like, well, she the cool chick. She'll tell you where to go. You can go to her church. Like, you have to be that beacon of light for people. And so I think to say that you could just do it on your own, like, we are all part of the body. Like, the pastor, from the finger to the elbow to the arm to the leg, everybody plays a part into the kingdom of God. So I think people just have to you have to realize that your gifts and your life is not your own. Like, you're here to serve God. So if you're not doing things to build the kingdom, then what are you doing? You think God just made you this way just so you can just be like making posts on Instagram and doing no, like, you have to use those gifts and your influence for the kingdom. And so I think once people get there, then you just got to let them get there on their own. But we have to be those beacons and that influence in our own lives to help bring people there. But you cannot, you cannot exist without a good church. And I think that people just have to understand that no church is perfect, and you have to get to a certain level of maturity to understand such ain't speak to you today. Okay, that's fine. But we still here building God's kingdom, and that's what it's about, building God's kingdom. So you have to look at the bigger picture, but we got to draw people in somehow so that they can get it. Because again, if you never had it, then you wouldn't know what you're missing. If you never been in a good church that was beneficial to have that community, then you won't know. So we just have to be that for people outside of the four walls of church.
Absolutely. The encounter, because that was the same with me as well. When I first started miming, I was a kid. I thought it was just like, oh, okay, put the makeup on, get up here, put the gloves on, and dance. Through the years, I started, like you said, you had that encounter with God. And I believe that's very, very important to have that encounter with God so that you can mature. And that was the same with me. That happened through the years. I had that direct encounter with God through the ministry of mime. So the more now it's more than just putting a face on and some gloves on. No, it takes time. It's not just creating the choreography, but it's also taking the time of, okay, humbling yourself. Okay, let me get in my corner and pray and kind of just get into my mode and just hear God before I get up there and stir in front of anybody. Because nowadays I don't just go, and a lot of people still ask me, do you still mime? And nope, I don't still mime. Or can you just come up here? Nope, it's not just as simple. I can just come up there and get on the stage. It's preparation behind this. Just the same thing like the pastor when he's preparing for his sermons. He don't just get up there and say anything. No, he has to take a second, hear what God is telling him to say to his people. So
it's a responsibility behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. And there's a lot of responsibility behind leading a ministry. How are you guys dealing with that? Let's start with you, Clear.
Yeah. You don't see that QR code up saying, come on if you want to volunteer help.
For real.
Come
Maybe
on,
we should try to put it in here.
I mean,
let me put the code up.
I think it really does. Like, you can't say that you're a Christian and you're a believer. And this is how it's grown me. If you're a leader, especially when you're leading people, you can't be the one stressed out and worrying. So you kind of have to be that person to say, okay, all right, let's pray on it. Let's think about it. Let's strategize. Let's hear what the Lord is saying, not just continue to complain about it. So having people there, just the changes with things. This ministry is very technical, so there's a lot of things that we have to like figure out logistically, and we want to make it better. We want to make it a good experience, so we're constantly changing stuff. And so sometimes with the changes, things don't always. We've got different flows at different times because we're trying to perfect this thing and we're trying to add new things in. But it's fun though. Like, I love it, and it's really teaching me to like lean to God. Like, if I have a problem, like, okay, I've done all that I can do. All right, so God. Amen. So
activate. Holy Spirit, activate.
Yeah, Holy Spirit, activate. Yeah. So we be asking for. We have our prayer calls together as a team, and we bring those things to God together. We fast together, and I think it's really awesome to like just build this relationship with a group of strangers spiritually, because technically they are. For me, everybody is a stranger because I didn't know anybody, and I think that's. Serving is such a great way to get to know people in church. Like, people are like, well, I don't know anybody. Like, okay, well, get serving.
You got to be
get
involved.
To know everybody.
Yes.
So yeah,
you got to get involved.
I am
And I
loving
think
it.
people underestimate the power, and just to kind of piggyback from what you both were saying, the power in kingdom community.
Hmm.
It's something very beautiful about it. And it was something that, it takes real intention to embrace, because it's that part of you that wants to be skeptical. That is that part of you that wants to be that guarded part of you that just can't open your heart to being vulnerable to people that you don't know like that. And then
That's
even
Right.
though we do it with people that we know we can't trust, like just because we've been knowing them for a long time, some of the people that hurt you the most be the people that your family and your people that your friends and all that other stuff.
Say
But we
that.
find it so hard to open up and be vulnerable with people that we know are in the kingdom. Yeah, we know these are not perfect people, but at the same time, they dealing with and maneuvering this walk just like everybody else, and that is something that's level ground for us. We're all trying to navigate this Christian walk. You know what I mean? And being able to do it with somebody who's navigating too is the best weaponry we got other than prayer and
yeah.
covering. You know what I mean? The other
Absolutely.
people that's dealing with it. So let me
Absolutely.
ask you, Quentin, how are you dealing with the new responsibility of leadership for Unplugged?
That's like a phenomenal question. It's definitely hit hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. The reason I say that is because I kind of joined a whole lot at one time. Of course, I have
Mhm.
my full-time job. I'm also a dad as well. I have a 5-year-old son. And then
Mhm.
I recently just enrolled myself into Regent University. I'm actually studying Christian ministry and theology. Um,
Wow.
so doing that, and then on
Wow.
top of Unplugged, it has it the burden has become a little heavy, but it's
Hmm.
definitely okay. Because of course, anytime you go into ministry, and I've been told this all the time, anytime you go into ministry, of course, the enemy is going to come with bigger attacks. And
That.
Hmm.
yes, I've definitely have encountered some of those bigger attacks in the
Hmm.
last couple of months. But you know what? I've learned a lot of patience. One thing for
Hmm.
sure, even before I started with Unplugged, for the longest, I've always been praying on God, just give me patience, just show me patience. And now this is the season where he's showing me patience. A lot of things where I would honestly like snap like a firecracker. I'll be ready.
Yeah.
But now just kind of be like, okay, let me kind of just get myself together. Let me just ease. Let me pray on it. All right, God, now it's in your hands. Even when it
Hmm.
comes to ministry, of course, we encounter our differences. Not I'm not just talking with the core group, just outside when we had to kind of just connect with certain other ministries to kind of make this thing work. It was tough, but you know what? I think overall, each of us on the core team has developed some type of patience and
Hmm.
maturity of like, okay, you know what? You got that. I'm gonna let God handle it. I've done all, like Clear said, I've done all I can, Lord. All right, now I just need you to go ahead and take care of it. And that's
Hmm.
basically what it is. Leadership, yes, it is a huge responsibility for anybody, especially they're joining in and they've never done this before. They never even served like as a volunteer before. Yeah, it's a big step, but you just have to be honestly spiritually strong for this. And what I mean by that is being active in your word, in your praying. Even if like we do have our prayer groups, and it'd be certain days, I'm pretty sure all of us are not able to get to it, but even still individually, just having your own prayer life real strong. I definitely do. Every morning I
Yeah.
get out of bed, I'm talking to God, and it's honestly like a conversation like this.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
feel like, oh no, you got to get on your knees, and oh no, you can
Like
just
that
have a
candle.
regular conversation with God. He hear you just like y'all hear me. And that's what I do
Absolutely.
every morning. I'm like, all right, God, how am I going to navigate through today? And honestly, he does show me these certain things, especially if I'm just kind of quiet. Sometimes I just have to be quiet and listen. Some people, they don't
Mm.
know how to just be like, all right, Lord, what can I do? They'll just keep on talking instead of just actually taking that time and hearing. And sometimes it's in the word, it can be in a text message, it can be something on TV. God can honestly use anything or anybody, even strangers.
Mm.
Even
Yeah.
strangers. I honestly, and I remember one of the weeks, it was really rough for me. And Cleara and Cedric, they knew something was off. Like my energy, it was hype, but it wasn't as like, oh, Quinn's not himself. And
Hmm.
honestly, this goes back to that relationship, honestly, being connected to a church because you grow and you actually get a lot of develop a lot of friendships. I've
Hmm.
developed a lot of friendships with the core team. Individuals like Clear and Cedric, they'll call me and say, "Hey Q, I just want to check on you. We ain't have to talk about Unplugged. We can just hey, what's going on? How is your day going? What's going on? Is anybody on your job getting on your nerves? Can we pray
Right.
about stuff like that?" And you need that. And before, I didn't have those type of relationships. I didn't have those type of friendships like that. So to be a part of it, I'm full in, because I'm like, God, if this is what you doing now, I can only imagine what you're gonna do in the next 10 years.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Now, when you think of concepts like unplug, right? Because let's be real, this is the real moment, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate just a little bit because there's so many inspirational or motivational speakers with the title pastor, right? And a lot of churches have been exposed for having this prosperity gospel or using these trendy little formats to draw people in, especially young people, right? Just so they can pad their pockets, pad their numbers, all kinds of things, but not really having the best, intention as far as making disciples, which should be the focus of the church, right? That's what Jesus commanded us to do, and that's supposed to be the point, right? But a lot of people out here are misguided, right? And so how can unplug differentiate itself for just being a trendy concept compared to, some of these churches who have gone that route? Why is it different, and how can people see that? Let's start with you, Clear.
That's an excellent question,
Yeah.
because I think of that stuff as sometimes myself as when when I look at stuff online and I see like different posts and different stuff like that. And I think that one thing's for certain for sure, I think that we are in line, right? We are executing what the pastor's vision is, and
Mhm,
understanding our role within what he's told us to do, right? And with with that being said, we know that that's coming directly from God, because we trust
mhm,
the man of God to execute those things. So we trust that God's gonna give us the provision, the creative ideas and stuff like that. So it's genuine. It's not about numbers. It's really about saving. So we don't care if one person comes up, if two people come up, if nobody comes up. When that goes forth, anybody who goes up, we're happy for that, because it's something. As Unplugged continues to develop, um, there will be more things that will be geared towards specifically young adults. But right now, we're just continuing to use the things that are in play, like our life groups, like our adult life classes and things like that. Like there's things out there for when they not just, come to a church and make it look good. Okay, after that, we got the way that we do altar call. It's no different from the other services, because it's still, we want to make sure that you gave your life to Christ, you rededicated, you needed a prayer. We want to make sure that you still have those resources outside of just a Sunday service. So I think that's
mhm.
the part where it comes from. It's built on something that's been proven for what has been 24 years we just celebrated to
Yes,
last.
24,
So
24.
like like Pastor says, the message is still the same. The method
Mhm,
has changed a little bit, but the message is still the same. So it's the same things
mhm.
being done from 9 to 11. It's just a different time. We got a DJ. Might be a little crazy stuff going on. We do questions and answers. We ask some little crazy questions. We get what we need. We're meeting people where they are. And that's one thing that I haven't seen, is just even down to the question and answer, the way that that's done, so that people can genuinely, without any shame, ask. I'm the one up there shamefully asking questions on their behalf.
Yeah, we do
But
set you up. We set you up with them
but
questions.
people are getting what they need. These are questions that
Yes.
I wish that I would have been able to ask at different points that are great, and we're getting answers. Your pastor is sitting here telling you, and I won't get unplugged on the show with some of the stuff that we talked about, but we're asking questions that are like, oh gosh, we got to
Yeah.
make sure we kick the kids out so that we can make
Yeah.
sure we get to the nitty gritty of things. So I
Yeah.
think that's one of the key differences. This is coming from real, genuine. This is coming directly from the source. This is
Mhm,
practical things of what people need.
mhm.
We not even pressed on trying to stream stuff and look at this and nothing like that. Yeah, we're doing
Right.
things that are, similar to what other people are doing for marketing and different stuff like that. But that's because we're trying to get the word out. We want people to come in. We want to pull people in, because this is a good thing that's happening that I think is very it's groundbreaking in how intimate it is, right? You got those churches that are like mega, but it's groundbreaking how intimate, and we can chit chat afterwards. We got fun things that we're gonna be doing later. We're gonna be doing line dances and karaoke down in 2024. But I think that is the difference. It's a genuine and it's directly from God, and it's built on prayer because we be praying
Yeah.
to make sure that we can make sure that we're aligned with what God's will is. So if we're aligned with what God's will is, then we can't do no wrong. So that's what I think. And I'm not saying that other churches aren't, but I know that as for New Beginnings, and Unplugged, that's what it is. So that's what I would say is the difference.
Well, I love it. That was a great answer because at the end of the day, it only matters that the message is the same.
Exactly.
Right. And because there's so many people that have a problem automatically when something is too progressive, when it's too innovative, those people that say, hey, if you not doing the hymnals, if you not, and it's not just the hymnals, it's just the traditional church. People just feel like if you're outside of that, then it has to be wrong, wicked, or just not pleasing or glorifying to God, right? And not edifying to God's people. What would you say to those people, Quentin?
One thing I would probably say to those people, real quick, I do want to rewind back about the other part. One thing that I noticed with New Beginnings is a lot of churches, they're actually base their things off of numbers off of
Mm-hmm.
baptisms, numbers off of members, numbers off of services, and all of that. One thing for sure that I really love, and honestly, just having a conversation with Pastor and Reverend Tawana as well. They're not worried about numbers. They're worried about impact. What is
Yes.
this ministry going to do as an impact for the city
Mm-hmm.
of Hill or Charlotte? What is it going to be? What is the impact? And that's what I always look forward to with any church. What is the impact? Like, okay, members can come and go. You can have 5,000 members one day, and then you can have 500 members one Sunday. So what is the
Mm-hmm.
impact behind that? But to go back to your question, one thing I would say is honestly, it kind of ties into what I just kind of said with the impact. What are we doing differently? And understanding it's more than just Sunday service, Sunday morning. Many
Mm-hmm.
people do different things on Sunday morning. Some people go to the mall, some people go to the park, some people go work out. Honestly, it goes back to I don't know if y'all heard that song by Mary Mary, Sunday Morning, where I can't
Mm-hmm.
wait to church on Sunday morning. Now you may do these other things, but I've been waiting 6 long days to get to my church on Sunday. That's a
Yes.
real thing. Like that is a
That's the
serious thing.
thing.
That'd be
It's some
me.
people
I'd be
that
like,
really
oh man, I
that
need
say,
Sunday
bro,
to hurry
they
up.
can't make it. And sometimes you ain't go, your week not right if you don't get that Sunday morning in the house.
Exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I really love with Unplug is in 2024, we're definitely taking a deeper dive into equipping younger people, not only just getting them engaged with service, but being also um strong warriors outside of the church walls, being more in the community, like when they're in the grocery store, some of them will probably still be at on college campuses and stuff like that, trying to just engage them so that they can continue to spread the word. And that's the important thing, spreading the word, making
Mm-hmm.
disciples of all nations, white, black, green, yellow, orange, whatever you want to call it. It is very, very important. So I really love that. Number one, we're making an impact, and then not only that, we're equipping the next generation. And I'm being a part of that. Like I really love
Mm-hmm.
that. Like Cleara said earlier, you don't have a lot of ministries. The ones that I know, you don't have a lot of ministries doing that. Some of them, they're just like, nope, we're just this big mega church. We're trying to just grow this, and then we got a little kids thing or a little, young adults thing going on, but it's not as impactful as what New Beginnings is doing.
Absolutely. And what I love about it is because a lot of the complaints that you hear about the church, especially specifically the Black church, for the people who subscribe to that, because really we know it's only one church, right?
Yep.
But we know at the end of the day, we grew up in the culture of the Black church, right? So we gonna call it what it is, right? But you get those people that feel like the church is not a place to get practical steps for life because traditionally it's like when it comes to certain things they just say don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, right? But it's not a why, it's not a how do I navigate life without doing that, right? They just say don't do it, it'll send you to the pit, right? And it's this fear mongering thing that can happen. But people, and what is off-putting to a lot of people, especially younger younger generations, they want to know the why. They want to learn, right? And I love the fact that Unplugged, specifically our church as a whole, we have a teacher. We have a teacher and a preacher in one
Yeah.
man of God, right? And he's good on both spectrum. And we are so fortunate to be on this covering. And the fact that he takes the time and shows how the Bible is so relevant to lives today as it was in the Old Testament is mind blowing. How we can get practical steps on how to live our life, and that he will show us that it's from the word. And he's not going to just tell you that. He wants us, encourages us to study these things for ourselves, and gives us additional resources, you know what I mean, that we can reference that will help to support the foundations that are still found in the Holy Book. The practical steps, the things that we can learn practically about life and that are broke down in that service. What is the kind of feedback that you have gotten that surprised you the most since you guys have been doing Unplugged? You guys have been doing this since what, September?
Yes, that's
The
September. Yeah.
September of
17.
2023, right?
Mhm.
Right. And
17.
so,
That's our
right.
anniversary date.
Launch
Okay. I don't even I know that anniversary gonna be lit, so sign me up. But
Yeah.
when that come back around, I already know. But what is the feedback that you guys have been getting from these settings, from these sessions, from these services, since you guys started, that surprised you the most? Let's start with you, Cleara.
That surprised me the most. I think for me, what surprised me the most is just people that are not in the target range, right, of the age group being so
Mm-hmm.
excited about it. It's
Yeah.
coming and showing up and being like, I love this. This is actually more my speed. I wish we would have had this, when I was a young adult. So I think that is confirmation of that. And then
Mm-hmm.
the ideas that people have, right? Because in our service, there's actually, and if you go on our page, there's actually like a link tree to give feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that people are like, can we do this? I want to do this. What about this? People are wanting to contribute it. People are on board with it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that the excitement in that has been the most exciting and kind of surprising, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that I want to figure out how to we can do this is like people being able to share their story, people being able
Mm-hmm.
to share their testimonies and stuff like that. And I think hearing I think it was a younger person say that probably was the most surprising because now, like we talked about, we grew up in a black church, and I remember testimony Sunday evening service. I used to be like, Lord, get me out of
Man,
here.
that was shut down all kinds of evening plans. Don't want to watch the
Okay.
game or nothing.
And I'm a kid. I don't got no plans, but I don't want to hear this. So
Yes.
I think that if we can find a way to do that in a contemporary way, I think that would be helpful because, and it's so important because you got right now, everybody's on Instagram looking like their life is good and da 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 da. You got
Mm-hmm.
the spirit of comparison running at an all
Mm-hmm.
time high. And
Running
so to
rapid.
hear, like, listen, your girl was down bad. I'm struggling with my kid. These finances, this and that. I'm trusting God for this, but I'm still, in this place. And then he showed up, or whatever the case may be. I think we need to find a way, a space to tell those stories for
Oh
2024
yeah.
and going forward. So I think that would probably be the most like, okay, from hearing that from a young adult perspective. So
Yeah.
now I feel charged and challenged. Like, Lord, how do we do this creatively to where it feels different? It has a different connotation. We're not even gonna call it testimony something. We're gonna call it something different. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and that was probably the most surprising.
Yeah, that would surprise me. Like, what? Oh, start the test. Oh, yeah, I get that. What about you, Quentin?
I would definitely agree with Clear on that one. The older generation, especially the first few weeks after we started, we've been hearing a whole lot from the older generation saying, "Oh my God, Unplug is lit! Like I
Yeah.
I, I want to go to that service." But one thing that it didn't really stop us. It was on the back of our minds because, of course, we had this conversation with Pastor. Was where a lot of the generation thought we were going to be not consistent with it because our generation is known for not being consistent with things. We'll start it and they'll probably like start for a few weeks and then boom, all right, we done. Move on to the next. But honestly, the core team, we've been consistent with this, like every Sunday, consistent with it. But the surprise part of it is, and one thing one of the ministers had told us is the most important thing out of everything is that you guys showed up. That's the one of the most important things. You guys showed up. And moving forward, everything else is gonna fall in place. But you guys just showing up is making that impact. Because it's like, oh snap, they're here like every Sunday. I want to know being a part of that. And honestly, me, I know every Sunday I'm trying to pull volunteers like left and right, like, hey, and some of them be like, yeah. But I think I just gotta like once I kind of throw the hook, just kind of reel them in a little more, like, and then really feel love. That's one thing that I've learned with ministry is the love behind it. Yes, you can serve, but if you don't have the heart to serve, there's no point in you part of family. So what I always try to do is embrace that love because when I was a little bit younger, the church that I went to in Connecticut, it was nothing but love. You felt nothing but love. And the crazy thing is, and this is how New Beginnings and the other church that I went to kind of coincide. They both started the same year in 1999, but the church I went to, they started a month after New Beginnings, and they've been up for 24 years. They actually were just celebrating 24 years. So part of the ministry like that, I'm like, all right, God, you got me in the right place because I'm kind of with you. Honestly, like after the pandemic, I was kind of like church hopping myself. I was kind of like, yeah, like I knew New Beginnings, but I wasn't like consistently going there. I was honestly in church online, or I went to elevation service. It wasn't like a consistent thing. And I'm like, God really kind of sat me down and had, you got to be consistent with one place. And honestly, the thing that drew me back to New Beginnings, my girlfriend, she wanted to learn to dance. So I was like, I know a dancer there. She's like the ministry leader over there. And then that's honestly, we started getting connected, but it was perfect timing in that season because I'm like, this is where God wants me to be. And I'm like, all right, God, I'm going to stay put. If you tell me to go, I will because I love you that much. But other than that would be the surprising thing is just the older generation like really embracing it more, which is fine. I love that. And it's just kind of grabbing that younger generation.
Well, on behalf of the older generations that be sneaking up in there, I concur. Unplugged is lit because I've been in there with all my 44 years. Like, yep, I'm here, and I got a question, and I'm typing it in, and it's anonymous. So,
but I think that's
I
a
love
good
it.
point. To your point is, I think that even though you're out of the age bracket, you're really not because I feel like if you did miss that, being able to have that practical breakdown, or things that we still wondering, or things that we just accepted and was just like, okay, well that's what we was told to do and everybody said to do it. It's a great opportunity to really break that down and get what you need. So keep coming, keep asking.
Exactly.
I love it.
And I love it with so you see so many people that do the same thing I do. You go to the previous service and then you go to Unplugged because it's going to be the message is going to be broken down in a way that is, or just it's the whole experience is just different. It's just given in a way that is a lot more, is a lot better received. And then you get the chance to ask, like, okay, so well, what about this? Then you get those questions answered. Oh, it's awesome. And I think if nothing else, and you guys spoke of how groundbreaking this whole thing is, the adoption, best practice, however you want to look at it, of being able to take questions in a public forum from your very own pastor, that is such a phenomenal experience. I mean, just not, and whether it's just about the scripture or just about life, that is an opportunity that we get how much of a treasure it is. And because of Unplugged, we all get to embark on that. And you know what? And I think Pastor is just finding a whole new lane on how he loved to teach, because he loved questions. He's like, anybody else?
He does.
He
He
loved answering
does.
Really
questions,
does,
and
yeah.
he answered them so well. Like, it's not,
So
some people you be
well.
like, I don't even want to ask this because it's gonna go on and on. But he know how to give it
Yep.
to you,
What you
give you
need?
right
Honestly,
to the meat and potatoes,
Read
and throw
this
a little
book.
gravy on there.
yep.
Give you a little bit, but
Honestly,
read
we
this
was
book
a
if you need it.
That part.
exactly. Honestly, we was a little nervous when we first presented that to him, because we was like, we were kind of like, I don't know if Pastor gonna go for this. But as soon as we put it on the table, he was like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah, we're going with this. And we was just like, oh, snap. Well, let's just throw in more ideas and keep going with it. But honestly, the question thing, we were like, oh my God, this is about to make the service. This is really what's going to be that pop
The
in the
center
service.
part.
Is sitting here asking the questions.
And
And
it's
I
at
so
love
first,
crazy because
it.
it
we
was,
changed it at first. I think we
yeah.
had people the mic thing, and so in order for like we just like, okay, who got questions, and like come to the mic, or here's the mic. But we decided, like, for efficiency purposes and for people to like, okay, well, what if they don't want, some of the questions that we've had over the last couple, nobody was going to ask those on the mic.
No.
And
Mm-mm.
so
Mm-mm.
when we
Mm-mm.
presented the being able to just like, you can submit it anonymously, or you can put your name and do it like that, and it'll just be one person, and it's been working. And then to even see that the same thing they did in Bible study too, like, it really is like, I feel like it's giving additional breakthroughs, because
Mm-hmm.
you can really have clarity on something that even after the word goes through, you've always had questions about or struggle with or something like that. And then like finally have a, like today I got some, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
on some things. And so I just appreciated my own self. Like, we submit questions ourselves
Yeah.
from the
Mhm.
Unplugged team. So
We
it's
do.
just,
Like,
We
it
do.
any
really
more
is like a beautiful
questions as you
thing.
put yeah, we got one more. So let's put it. Well, that's good. Well, this is great. This has been so great. But before I wrap this up, I just want to give you guys a chance to let us know what else, not the whole plan, but what else can people look forward to as far as the evolution of Unplugged?
The fellowship. I'm gonna definitely say that. That is one
Mm-hmm.
thing that our team is really targeting on for next year, is the fellowship. And like I said before, now that Pastor and Reverend Tawana are giving us that platform, they're kind of like, the sky's the limit. Don't feel afraid to come to us and say, hey, it's either going to be a yes or a no. You have not because you ask not. And trust me, we've been asking. So definitely the fellowship, because we want to engage more, not just the volunteer part, but just people in general. We want to love on
Mm-hmm.
people. So
Yeah.
that fellowship for sure is going to be a big thing that people be definitely seeing for next year.
Awesome. Any additional comments on that one, Clara?
Definitely. So like the fellowship is definitely going to be huge. With just doing things together outside of church, through maybe at the community life center, stuff like that. We have a lot of good ideas for those type of things, as well as doing outreach together, which will serve as, the fellowship and doing outreach. And then as well as just some different creative things within the service. And we
Yeah.
also want to focus on having specific lanes for young adults. To grow spiritually. I'll just say that. So like how we have different, like maybe we'll have a life group just for young adults, right? I know specific before it's been like the area, the zip code and stuff like that. But those are things that we're working on. Nothing is definitive, but we want to have the spiritual stuff as well for people outside of Sunday. That is,
Mhm.
another group of young adults. So we're growing spiritually, we're fellowshipping together, and we feel super connected. So look out for all those things. Follow us on Facebook,
Love it.
UPC
And
un
go ahead. Go ahead and
PLG.
drop the social
Okay.
media. Drop the social
Yeah.
media
Yep.
handles for everybody
Yes.
who can follow you guys online.
Yep. So it's at UN, no, at NBCUNPLG
Yep.
is our Instagram page. So, you can keep up with all the good things and the stuff that's coming there. And just thank you so much for letting us come and talk about Unplug. This
Yeah.
was really fun. I really
This
enjoyed my
was.
my little first podcast experience. So thank you so much,
Yes.
girl.
Well, trust and believe. I'm hoping you guys, you will be invited back. I hope you will accept, because I love talking to you guys. I'm so excited on the ministry that you guys are building, and I am looking forward to seeing all that God is going to do to you guys, through you guys, for you guys, and for others. You know what I mean? Because of this ministry. So I just thank you guys for the work. And I thank you guys for the yes, because I know that it's hard, right? It's hard to where somebody say, hey, you want to do this? And it's just like, when do I? You know what I mean? Like, do I want to do it? Because that's a lot. But you guys were bold enough to trust God in this situation, to trust your pastor, your spiritual covering, and align yourself with his vision, which is ultimately God's vision. And not everybody will have what it takes to say yes. But I thank the good Lord that you guys had it. I think that you are definitely the people for the job. I'm excited to see what all comes from this ministry. Thank you so much for being here.
You're
Thank you,
welcome. Thank you
Marley.
for having us.
We appreciate you.
Thank you so much to my guests, Cleara and Quentin, for joining the conversation and talking about the Unplugged ministry. I'm truly expecting great things, and I look forward to seeing all that God is going to do through you both. And if this conversation spoke to you, please like it, share it, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember, you can stream the podcast online at thischristianwalk.com or iHeartRadio, as well as Apple Podcasts. Well, TCW fam, it boils down to this. Innovation and evolution is something that is necessary for the church, just like anywhere else. A lot of people think that, evolution, innovation in the church is demonic. And we just gonna pray for you, because at the end of the day, as long as the message is the same, the method shouldn't matter. And on this walk with God, I know one thing for sure. Loving God can be easy. Trusting God can be hard. But I believe we can all get there one step at a time on this Christian walk. I'll see you next time.
We ain't talked in a minute, yo, please come kick it with me. I got some questions, need answers, so please be vivid with me. This walk is scary, I know that results may vary, but somebody gotta do it. Sit down, let's get into it.